Danny Cole stepped off the transport shuttle and took his first breath of recycled station air. The Galactic Academy on Nexus Prime was everything the brochures had promised and nothing like he had imagined. Towering corridors stretched in every direction, filled with beings he had only seen in holographic displays back on Earth. Some had scales. Others had multiple limbs. A few seemed to float rather than walk. And every single one of them stopped to stare at the human boy, carrying a simple bag over his shoulder. He was used to being watched. His father had warned him about this before accepting the ambassador position that made Danny eligible for transfer. Humans were new to the galactic community. They had only made first contact 7 years ago, and most species still considered Earth a primitive backwater planet filled with soft, weak creatures who had somehow stumbled into space travel. Danny had heard all the jokes. Humans were fragile. Humans were slow. Humans came from a death world, but had none of the natural weapons that title should have granted them. Danny kept his eyes forward and walked toward the registration desk. A tall being with gray skin and 3 eyes processed his documents without saying a word. The silence felt heavier than any insult. The dormitory wing was on the far side of the station, and Danny had memorized the route from the maps his father had obtained. He moved through the crowded corridors, nodding the way other students parted around him. Not out of respect, out of something closer to disgust, like he was a strange insect that had crawled into their pristine academy. He was halfway to his quarters when the first voice called out, "Is that really a human?" Danny stopped. 4 figures blocked the corridor ahead. The leader was a species known for their scaled skin and 4 powerful arms. He stood nearly 7 feet tall, and his yellow eyes looked down at Danny with open contempt. 3 others flanked him, each from a different species, each wearing the same expression of cruel amusement. "My name is," they said. "My family controls the trade routes through the 7th sector. You probably traveled on one of our ships to get here." He stepped closer, and Danny noticed how the other students in the corridor quickly found reasons to be somewhere else. "I have never seen a human in person before. You are smaller than I expected." Danny said nothing. "Can it even speak?" one of the others asked, laughing. "I can speak," Danny said. His voice was calm and steady. "I would like to pass, please." Tilted his head and his 4 arms crossed over his chest in a gesture that somehow looked both casual and threatening. "It has manners, how nice, but I am curious about something. The reports say humans come from a death world, a planet where everything tries to kill you, yet look at you." He gestured at Danny's body with one hand. "No claws, no scales, no natural armor, soft skin that cuts easily. I could break you with 1 arm, let alone 4. "Maybe," Danny said. "Maybe?" Leaned down until his face was inches from Danny's. "There is no maybe. You are prey pretending to be a predator. Your species does not belong here among us. The only reason you were accepted is because the council felt sorry for your primitive little world." Danny met his gaze without flinching. "I just want to get to my room." For a long moment studied him. Then he stepped aside with an exaggerated bow. "Of course, far be it from me to stop the little human. Go hide in your room, soft one. But know this." His voice dropped lower. "Tomorrow is combat training. All first-year students are required to attend. I think I will show everyone exactly why humans do not deserve to walk these halls." Danny walked past them without another word. He could feel their eyes on his back until he turned the corner, and he could hear their laughter echoing behind him. His room was small but clean. A single bed, a desk, a window that looked out at the stars. Danny set his bag down and sat on the edge of the mattress. He pulled out a worn photograph from his pocket and looked at it for a long time. 2 faces smiled back at him. His parents, taken 3 years before the accident that had claimed their lives. His uncle had raised him after that, a quiet man who had served in Earth's military and had taught Danny everything he knew about survival. "The galaxy is bigger than our problems," his uncle had told him before he left. "But that does not mean our problems are small. You will face beings out there who think they are better than you. Some of them will be bigger, stronger, faster. They will have advantages you cannot match. His uncle had placed a hand on Danny's shoulder. But they will never have what you have. They do not know what humans are capable of. They have never had to. Danny put the photograph away and lay back on the bed. Tomorrow would come soon enough. Across the station, in a viewing lounge reserved for senior students, a small named Senna watched the confrontation replay on her personal screen. She had recorded it from a distance, curious about the new human student. Her species had feline features, soft fur covering her body and large eyes that saw well in darkness. She was not popular at the academy. She was too quiet, too timid, too easy a target for beings like. But something about the human intrigued her. The way he had stood there without fear. The way his voice had never wavered. Had destroyed students for less disrespect than that calm refusal to be intimidated. She watched the recording again, focusing on the human's eyes. There was something in them that she recognized. Not anger, not fear, something deeper, something patient. Senna had seen many students challenge over the years. All of them had lost. Most of them had been carried out of the arena on medical stretchers. She wondered if the human knew what he was walking into. She wondered if she should warn him. In the end, she decided she would. Not because she thought it would help, but because no one had ever warned her, and she still remembered how that felt. Tomorrow would be interesting. News traveled fast on Nexus Prime. By morning, every student in the academy knew that had challenged the human transfer to a combat match. The betting boards lit up with wagers, and the odds were not kind to Danny Cole. 50-1 against him. Some students bet higher just for the entertainment value of watching a human get destroyed by the most feared fighter in the first-year class. Danny ate breakfast alone in the dining hall. The food was strange but edible, some kind of nutrient paste that tasted vaguely like oatmeal. He watched the other students watching him, their conversations dropping to whispers whenever he looked their way. He had expected this. His uncle had prepared him for isolation. "You will be alone out there," his uncle had said during those long training sessions in the mountains behind their home. "That is fine. Alone is not the same as weak. Alone means no one to worry about except yourself. It means clarity." Danny finished his meal and was about to leave when a small figure slid into the seat across from him. He looked up to Sia with soft brown fur and nervous eyes. She glanced around as if checking for observers, then leaned forward. "My name is Senna," she said quietly. "I need to talk to you about." "I know who is." "You do not understand." Her voice was urgent. "He has never lost a training match, not once in 3 years. He has sent 9 students to the medical bay with injuries that took weeks to heal. His family is powerful, so no one ever punishes him. The instructors look the other way." She paused. "You can withdraw from the challenge. There is no shame in it. Most students would." Danny studied her for a moment. Her concern seemed genuine, which surprised him. No one else had bothered to warn him about anything since he arrived. "Why are you telling me this?" he asked. Senna looked down at the table. "Because no one warned me when I first came here, and his friends made my life very difficult. I know what it feels like to be the one everyone expects to fail." She met his eyes again. "You seem like a good person. I do not want to see you hurt." "I appreciate that," Danny said, "but I am not going to withdraw." Her ears flattened against her head in what he assumed was frustration. "You do not have to prove anything. Everyone already thinks humans are weak. Losing to will not change that. It will just confirm it." "Maybe," Danny stood up from the table. "Can I ask you something?" "What?" "You said you have watched Fight. What does he do? How does he move?" Senna blinked at him, clearly not expecting the question. "He relies on his 4 arms. He attacks from multiple angles at once. Most species cannot defend against that many strikes at the same time. He overwhelms his opponents in the first few seconds and never gives them a chance to recover." Danny nodded slowly. "Thank you, Senna, that helps." He walked away before she could respond, leaving her staring after him with confusion and something that might have been hope. The combat training arena was located in the central hub of the academy. It was a massive circular space with holographic projectors that could simulate any environment. Today, the projectors were dark. The floor was simple gray metal. No obstacles, no distractions, just two fighters and whatever skills they brought with them. The stands were packed. Students from every year had come to watch, filling the viewing galleries until there was standing room only. Word had spread that this would be a spectacle worth seeing. The primitive human against the undefeated. Most had come to watch Danny fail. A few had come hopping for a surprise. None of them truly believed one was possible. Instructor stood at the edge of the arena. He was an ancient species with deep blue skin and eyes that had seen centuries of history. He had taught at the academy for longer than most students had been alive, and he had seen countless matches in this arena. Something about this one troubled him. He had read the files on humans. He knew what they had survived on their death world. He knew about their wars, their persistence, their strange ability to keep fighting long after other species would have surrendered. The galactic community dismissed humans as weak because they lacked natural weapons. Was not so sure that was the right conclusion. Entered the arena first, his four arms spread wide to accept the cheers of his supporters. He wore training gear that showed off his muscular form, and his yellow eyes gleamed with anticipation. This would be easy. This would be fun. He would break the human slowly, make him beg, and remind everyone why the elite were not to be challenged. Then Danny walked in. He wore simple clothes, no armor, no padding, just a plain gray shirt and loose pants that allowed free movement. He looked small he looked fragile. The crowd murmured with disappointment as if they had expected something more impressive. The rules are simple, instructor announced. Hand-to-hand combat, no weapons. The match ends when one fighter yields or is unable to continue. Medical teams are standing by. He paused and looked at Danny. Human, you may still withdraw. There is no dishonor in recognizing a superior opponent. I understand, Danny said. I want to fight. Laughed. It wants to fight, how precious. Come then, little human, show me what your death world taught you. The two fighters moved to the center of the arena, towered over Danny, his four arms already flexing in preparation. Danny stood still, his hands loose at his sides, his breathing slow and steady. Instructor raised his hand. The arena fell silent. Begin. Attacked. Moved with the speed that had made him legendary. His four arms came at Danny from every direction at once, a blur of scaled muscle and deadly precision. He had ended most fights in the first 3 seconds with this attack. Opponents simply could not process that many threats at the same time. Their minds froze while their bodies took the punishment. But Danny did not freeze. In the first second, as those four arms descended toward him, Danny did something that made no logical sense. He stepped forward, not back, not to the side, directly into the attack, closing the distance between them so fast that his outer arms swept through empty air where Danny had been standing a heartbeat before. Second 2. Danny was inside his guard now, too close for those long arms to be effective. Tried to adjust, tried to bring his fists inward, but his own body was working against him. Four arms were an advantage at range. Up close, they were a liability. They got in each other's way. Second 3. Danny's hand shot out and struck a point just below his first right arm. The blow looked soft, almost gentle, but felt his entire arm go numb. His eyes widened with shock. No one had ever touched him in a match before. Seconds 4 through 6. 2 more strikes, each one precise, each one targeting nerve clusters that humans had spent decades learning to find. When Earth had made first contact with the galaxy, their scientists had immediately begun studying alien physiology. Not for medicine, for this. For knowing exactly where to hit when the time came. Staggered backward, 3 of his 4 arms now hanging uselessly at his sides. His legs felt weak. His vision blurred at the edges. He tried to swing with his one working arm, but the human was already moving. Seconds 7 and 8. Danny ducked under the desperate swing and delivered a sharp kick to the back of his knee. The dropped, his leg buckling beneath him. For the first time in his life, looked up at an opponent instead of down. Seconds 9 and 10. Danny stepped behind, wrapped one arm around his throat, and used his other hand to lock the hold in place. It was a simple technique, one of the first his uncle had taught him. The pressure was not enough to cause permanent damage, but it was enough to make breathing very difficult. "Yield," Danny said quietly. The arena was completely silent. No one moved. No one spoke. Every being in the stands stared at the impossible scene before them. The human had the pinned. The match had lasted 10 seconds. Struggled, but his arms would not respond. His body felt like it belonged to someone else. Rage and humiliation burned through him, but there was nothing he could do. The human's grip was like iron, and every movement only made the pressure worse. "Yield," Danny said again. "I yield," whispered. Danny released him immediately and stepped back, collapsed forward onto his hands, gasping for air, his entire body trembling. The students in the stands began to murmur, the sound growing louder as the shock wore off and reality set in. The human had won. The human had destroyed in 10 seconds. Instructor walked slowly to the center of the arena. His ancient eyes moved from to Danny, and something like satisfaction flickered across his blue features. "The match is over," he announced. "The human is victorious." The murmurs became shouts. Some students cheered, caught up in the excitement of witnessing something historic. Others sat in stunned silence, trying to process what they had seen. Followers pushed forward through the crowd, their faces twisted with anger. "This is not right," one of them shouted. "He cheated. Humans cannot fight like that." "There was no cheating," instructor said calmly. "I watched every moment. The human used superior technique to defeat a stronger opponent. This is exactly what combat training is meant to teach." He turned to address the entire arena. "Let this be a lesson to all of you. Size and strength are not everything. The mind is the greatest weapon any species possesses." Danny stood alone in the center of the arena. He was not smiling. He was not celebrating. He simply waited, watching struggle to his feet with his arms still hanging limp. Then Danny did something that shocked everyone even more than his victory. He walked over to and extended his hand. "Good match," Danny said. Stared at the offered hand like it was a venomous creature. His yellow eyes burned with hatred and shame. This human had humiliated him in front of the entire academy. His reputation was destroyed. His family would hear about this within hours. And now the human was offering him help. "What are you doing?" demanded. "Helping you up. I do not need your help." "I know," Danny kept his hand extended, "but I am offering it anyway." For a long moment, no one breathed. The tension in the arena was thick enough to cut. Followers watched their leader, waiting to see what he would do. Slapped Danny's hand away and pushed himself to his feet on his own. He stumbled past Danny without another word, his supporters quickly surrounding him and guiding him toward the exit. The crowd parted to let them through, and soon they were gone. Senna watched from the stands, her heart pounding. She had seen the whole thing, the speed, the precision, the mercy. This human was unlike anything she had ever encountered. Danny finally left the arena, ignoring the stares and whispers that followed him. He did not look like a victor. He looked tired. He looked sad. Instructor watched him go and made a note in his personal files. "The humans," he wrote, "are not what they appear to be. Further observation is required." The video spread across the galactic network within hours. Someone had recorded the match from the stands, and now billions of beings across 1,000 worlds were watching a human defeat in 10 seconds. The clip became the most viewed content in Academy history. News channels picked it up. Analysts debated what it meant. Scientists began requesting access to human combat training records. Danny tried to ignore the attention, but it followed him everywhere. Students who had avoided him now wanted to sit with him at meals. Instructors who had dismissed him now asked for his insights in class. Messages flooded his personal terminal from beings he had never met, some curious, some angry, some offering friendship and others offering threats. He deleted most of them without reading. On the third day after the match, Senna found him sitting alone in one of the observation decks, staring out at the stars. She approached quietly and sat down beside him without asking permission. "You do not seem happy," she said. "I am not. You won, everyone is talking about you. Is that not what you wanted?" Danny shook his head slowly. "I did not want any of this, I just wanted to go to school, learn, maybe make some friends." He glanced at her. "Did not give me a choice. If I had backed down, it would have been worse. Not just for me, but for every human who comes after me. They would see us as easy targets." Senna considered this. "So you fought to protect others who are not even here yet." "Something like that." They sat in silence for a while, watching cargo ships drift past the station windows. Senna's curiosity eventually got the better of her. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "After the match, you offered your hand. He had insulted you, threatened you. Why would you help him?" Danny was quiet for a long moment before answering. "On Earth, we have a saying. The measure of a person is not how they treat their friends, but how they treat their enemies." He turned to look at her directly. Was beaten. He was humiliated in front of everyone he knew. In that moment, he was not my enemy anymore. He was just someone who had lost. I know what that feels like. "You have lost before." "Everyone loses eventually. My parents lost their lives in an accident when I was 12. I lost my home. I lost everything I thought I understood about the world." He looked back at the stars. "My uncle taught me that strength is not about winning. It is about what you do after you win. Anyone can destroy an enemy. It takes something more to offer them mercy." Senna did not know what to say, so she said nothing. They sat together in comfortable silence until the station's lights dimmed for the night cycle. Across the academy, in a private communication chamber, faced the holographic image of his father. The elder's 4 arms were crossed over his chest, and his expression radiated cold fury. "You have shamed our family," his father said. "Defeated by a human, a primitive from a death world that should still be learning to light fires. The other trade families are already mocking us. Our contracts are being questioned. Our reputation is damaged. Father, I will fix this. I will challenge him again and—" "No more challenges. You have proven you cannot defeat him in open combat." His father leaned closer to the holographic projector. "You will restore our honor by other means. The human must be made to pay. I do not care how. Make it look like an accident. Make it look like he caused the problem himself. Just make sure he suffers." Swallowed hard. "What are you asking me to do?" "Whatever is necessary. You are my son. Act like it." The hologram disappeared, leaving alone in the darkness. His arms had mostly recovered from the nerve strikes, but they still ached whenever he moved too quickly. Every time he felt that pain, he remembered the human standing over him, offering help he did not deserve. He should hate Danny Cole. Part of him did hate Danny Cole. But another part, a small and quiet part, remembered the look in the human's eyes. There had been no cruelty there. No satisfaction in victory. Just a sad understanding that this moment had been inevitable. Push those thoughts away. His father was right. The family honor had to be restored. There was no other option. He accessed the station's internal systems using codes his family had obtained through bribes and favors. The Academy's infrastructure was complex, but every system had vulnerabilities. He just needed to find the right one. Hours later, deep in the station's maintenance sector, found what he was looking for. A junction point where the life support systems connected to the power grid. One small adjustment would cause a cascade failure that would seal off an entire section of the dormitory wing. Danny's section. It would look like a malfunction. Old station, outdated equipment, these things happened. Reached for the control panel, then hesitated. If he did this, people could die. Not just Danny, but anyone else in that section. Students who had nothing to do with their conflict. His father's voice echoed in his mind. Whatever is necessary. He made the adjustment. For a moment, nothing happened. Then warning lights began to flash. Alarms began to wail. And somewhere in the distance, heard the sound of emergency bulkheads slamming shut. He had made a terrible mistake. The cascade failure spread faster than had expected. What should have been a contained disruption became a station-wide emergency as backup systems failed to activate properly. The life support sector began venting atmosphere. An emergency bulkhead sealed off 3 sections of the dormitory wing, trapping dozens of students inside. Stood frozen in the maintenance corridor, watching disaster unfold on the monitoring screens. This was not supposed to happen. He had only wanted to hurt the human. Instead, he had endangered everyone. His own section was sealed. He was trapped in the maintenance area with no way out and no way to undo what he had done. In the command center, instructor coordinated the emergency response. Station protocols were clear. The sealed sections would be abandoned to prevent further cascade failures. Anyone trapped inside would have to survive until repair teams could reach them, which could take hours. "Sir," one of the technicians reported, "we have 17 students trapped in Section 4. Life support is failing. They have maybe 20 minutes of breathable air." "What about emergency oxygen?" "The dispensers failed with everything else. They are on their own." Closed his eyes. 17 students, children of diplomats, traders, and military officers from across the galaxy. Their deaths would spark an incident that could destabilize relations between species for generations. Then a voice came over the communication system. "This is Danny Cole. I am outside Section 4. I can see the trapped students through the observation window. I am going in." "Human, that section has toxic atmosphere," responded immediately. "The oxygen levels are already below survival thresholds for most species. You will die." "Humans evolved on a death world," Danny said. "We can survive things other species cannot. My biology allows me to function in low-oxygen environments for extended periods. I am going in." Before anyone could stop him, Danny activated the manual override on the emergency bulkhead and stepped through. The door sealed behind him. The air inside Section 4 was thin and poisonous. Danny felt his lungs burn with every breath, but his body adapted as it was designed to do. Millions of years of evolution had prepared humans for exactly this kind of environment. High altitudes, smoke-filled caves, oxygen-depleted spaces. Where other species would collapse in minutes, humans could keep moving. He found the first group of students huddled near the observation window. Their faces were pale, their breathing shallow. A young who was not. "Can you move?" Danny asked. They nodded weakly. "The emergency exit is 50 meters down the corridor. I cleared the path. Go now, stay together." He helped them to their feet and watched them stumble toward safety. Then he went deeper into the section. The second group was in worse shape. They had been further from the windows when the failure happened, and the atmosphere was even more toxic here. Danny found Senna among them, her small body curled against a wall, barely conscious. "Hey," he said softly, kneeling beside her. "I need you to wake up. Can you hear me?" Her eyes flickered open. "Danny. I am getting you out of here. Hold on to me." He lifted her over his shoulder and called out to the others. 2 more students responded, and he guided them toward the exit. His vision was starting to blur. His muscles ached. The toxic air was affecting him too, just more slowly than it would affect anyone else. He got them to the emergency exit and pushed them through. The bulkhead sealed behind them, leaving him still inside. One more sweep. He had to make sure no one was left behind. He found in the maintenance corridor, trapped behind a secondary bulkhead that had failed to open. That was slumped against the door, his 4 arms limp at his sides, his yellow eyes barely focused. "You," whispered, "why are you here?" "Saving people," Danny said. He examined the door controls. Fried, he would have to force it open manually. "This is my fault," said. "I did this. I wanted to hurt you and I killed everyone instead." Danny looked at him through the small window in the door. "Everyone is alive. I got them out, but I need you to help me open this door. Can you push from your side?" "You should leave me here. I deserve it." "That is not how this works." Danny braced himself against the door frame. "On Earth, we do not leave people behind, not even people who tried to kill us. Push when I say push." For a moment did not move, then something shifted in his eyes. He placed his 4 hands against the door. "Now." They pushed together. The door groaned, resisted, then finally gave way. Stumbled through just as the final cascade failure hit and the entire section lost power. They ran through darkness toward the last emergency exit. Danny's body was failing now, pushed past even human limits. But they reached the bulkhead just in time. It opened, they fell through, and clean air rushed over them as medical teams descended. Danny collapsed on the floor of the corridor, gasping for breath, his vision fading. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was kneeling beside him, shouting for help. He woke up in the medical bay 3 days later. Senna was sitting beside his bed, along with a dozen other students he had saved. Instructor stood at the foot of the bed, his ancient face unreadable. "You should have died," said simply. "The exposure you suffered would have killed any other species within minutes, yet here you are." "Humans are stubborn," Danny managed. Appeared in the doorway. He hesitated, then walked slowly to Danny's bedside. The room fell silent. "I confessed to the council," said quietly. "I told them everything, what I did, what my father ordered. I will be expelled and my family will face sanctions." He paused. "I wanted you to know that I am sorry, not just for what happened, for everything, for how I treated you from the first moment you arrived." Danny looked at him for a long moment. Then he extended his hand again. This time took it. Instructor smiled for the first time in decades. That night, he submitted a report to the Galactic Council. "The humans," he wrote, "should not be underestimated. They are not weak. They are not primitive. They are survivors who respond to cruelty with mercy and face death to save even their enemies. The galaxy has much to learn from them." Months later, Danny sat in the Academy dining hall, surrounded by friends of every species. Senna sat beside him, laughing at something a student had said. Even, who had been allowed to return after completing his punishment, sat at the edge of the group, slowly learning to be part of something other than cruelty. "Humans are strange," Senna said, watching Danny share his meal with a younger student who had forgotten to bring credits. Danny smiled. "We prefer the term interesting."